The rain pounded the streets of Chicago like bullets against pavement. Vincent Calabrese sat in the back of his black SUV, watching the city blur past his tinted windows. His driver navigated through afternoon traffic while Vincent reviewed reports on his tablet. Numbers. Shipments. Debts. The family business never slept, and neither did he. His phone buzzed with messages from his underboss about a shipment arriving at the docks tonight. Vincent's jaw tightened. Everything had to be perfect. One mistake could cost millions or worse lives. His daughter Isabella was at ballet practice across town. She would be done in 30 minutes. Vincent made a mental note to pick her up himself today. In this world, showing weakness meant death, but Isabella was his only soft spot. Miles away, beneath a highway overpass, Jack Sullivan wrapped his torn military jacket tighter around his chest. The cardboard beneath him was soaked through, but he had slept in worse conditions. Afghanistan had taught him to survive with nothing. 3 years on the streets had reinforced those lessons. His stomach growled, reminding him he had not eaten since yesterday morning when a kind stranger bought him a sandwich. Jack looked at the cars speeding past overhead. Each one represented a life he would never have again. A home. A family. A purpose. He touched the dog tags hidden under his shirt. Staff Sergeant Jack Sullivan, United States Army. That man felt like someone else now. Someone who died overseas and never really came home. Isabella Calabrese skipped down the steps of Madame Lawrence Ballet Academy, her pink backpack bouncing against her shoulders. At 8 years old, she had her father's dark hair and her late mother's bright smile. 2 bodyguards waited by the black sedan, but Isabella was focused on the ice cream shop across the street. Her father had promised her a treat if she practiced hard. She had practiced very hard today. Without thinking, Isabella stepped off the curb, her mind on strawberry ice cream with sprinkles. She did not see the delivery truck barreling down the street, its driver distracted by his phone. The bodyguards were too far behind her, reaching for their weapons out of instinct. Everything moved in slow motion as the truck's horn blared. Jack had walked to this neighborhood looking for a soup kitchen someone mentioned. His feet ached in his worn boots as he turned the corner near the ballet studio. He saw the little girl step into the street just as the truck came roaring forward. His body moved before his mind could process it. 20 years of military training kicked in like muscle memory. Jack lunged forward, his arms wrapping around the child's small frame as he pulled her back onto the sidewalk. They tumbled together onto the concrete as the truck roared past, missing them by inches. The wind from it whipped Jack's long, matted hair across his face. Isabella was crying, scared but unhurt. Jack's hands shook as he helped her sit up. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're safe now." The bodyguards rushed forward, weapons drawn, shouting at Jack in Italian and English. They grabbed Isabella away from him, checking her for injuries while keeping their guns trained on the homeless man. Jack raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. His heart hammered in his chest. He had saved a child's life, but these men looked ready to end his. "I was just helping," Jack said quietly, his voice rough from disuse. The truck almost hit her. One bodyguard barked into his phone while the other kept his weapon steady. Isabella peeked around the bodyguard's leg. "He saved me, Nico," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "The truck was going to hit me. He saved my life." Nico's expression did not soften, but his finger moved away from the trigger. Vincent's phone call came through as Jack sat on the curb, surrounded by armed men. He could hear a man's voice screaming through the speaker, demanding to know what happened. Nico explained the situation in rapid Italian, glancing at Jack every few seconds. Isabella grabbed the phone. "Papa, a nice man saved me. I almost got hit by a truck, but he pulled me back. Please don't let them hurt him." Vincent's voice went quiet on the other end. Then he said something that made Nico straighten up immediately. "Do not let him leave. I will be there in 5 minutes." The bodyguards relaxed slightly, but kept Jack in their sights. Jack considered running, but where would he go? He had nowhere to run to anymore. So he sat and waited, wondering what fresh hell he had stumbled into. Vincent's SUV screeched to a halt outside the ballet studio 4 minutes later. He burst from the vehicle like a storm, his expensive suit somehow making him look more dangerous than any weapon. Isabella ran into his arms, and for a moment, the crime boss disappeared. He was just a father holding his daughter, checking every inch of her for injuries, kissing her forehead. "I'm okay, Papa," Isabella insisted. "He saved me. You have to thank him." Vincent's eyes finally landed on Jack. The homeless veteran stood slowly, respectfully, keeping his hands visible. Years of following orders made Jack stand straighter despite his circumstances. Vincent approached him, his bodyguards flanking him on both sides. "You saved my daughter's life," Vincent said, his voice controlled but emotional. "I owe you a debt." Jack shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would do." Vincent's eyes narrowed. Not anyone. Most people would have looked away. He studied Jack's face, the weathered skin, the haunted eyes, the overgrown beard. Then Vincent's gaze dropped to Jack's arms. The torn jacket sleeve had ripped further during the rescue, exposing Jack's right forearm. Vincent's face went completely white. His hand shot out, grabbing Jack's wrist and pushing the sleeve up further. There, faded but unmistakable, was a tattoo. A skull with a snake coiled through its eye sockets, and beneath it, 8 small stars in a specific pattern. Vincent stumbled backward like he had been shot. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. His bodyguards tensed, confused by their boss's reaction. Jack tried to pull his arm away. "It's nothing." "That is not nothing." Vincent's voice cracked with emotion. His hands were shaking now, something his men had never seen. "That tattoo. Those stars. Where did you get it?" Jack's jaw tightened. He had not spoken about that mission in 5 years. Not to the VA therapists, not to the other veterans on the street, not to anyone. Afghanistan. 2019, a rescue mission in Kandahar province. Vincent's knees nearly gave out. Nico caught his boss's arm, alarmed. "Sir, what's wrong?" Vincent ignored him. His eyes were locked on Jack, tears forming. There were 8 people in that convoy. 8 civilians kidnapped by the Taliban. You were part of the team that rescued them. Jack nodded slowly, confused by the man's reaction. "Special operations. We got them out before the Taliban could execute them. Why does that matter to you?" Vincent's voice broke completely. "My brother, Antonio Calabrese. He was one of those 8 people." The world seemed to stop. Jack's mind raced back to that night. The desert heat, the gunfire, the smell of burning diesel. They had extracted 8 Italian contractors who had been building a school when militants took them hostage. Jack remembered a man about his age, dark hair, speaking Italian to comfort the others. The team had gotten them onto helicopters and out of the country within 48 hours. Jack had never learned their names. They were just 8 faces he had saved before moving on to the next mission. Antonio was doing charity work, Vincent continued, wiping his eyes. Building schools for children. I begged him not to go to Afghanistan. I told him it was too dangerous. Vincent's hands gripped Jack's shoulders. When the Taliban took him, I called every contact I had. I offered money, weapons, anything. But I could not reach him. Then your military team came. Antonio said the soldiers who saved them were ghosts. They appeared in the night, eliminated the guards, and vanished with the hostages before anyone knew what happened. He said one soldier gave him dog tags to hold during the helicopter ride because he was panicking. He said the soldier told him, "Hold these. They will keep you safe." Jack's hand unconsciously moved to his chest, where his own tags hung. He remembered that moment, the Italian man hyperventilating, thinking the helicopter would crash. Jack had given him something solid to focus on. He never forgot that kindness, Vincent said. He came home because of you and your team. Where is Antonio now? Jack asked quietly. Vincent's face crumpled with grief. Cancer took him last year. He fought for 2 years, but it spread too fast. Before he died, he made me promise something. Vincent reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn photograph. It showed 8 men with their arms around each other's shoulders, dirty but smiling. Antonio was in the center. He made me promise that if I ever met the soldiers who saved him, I would repay that debt. He said those men gave him 3 extra years of life. 3 years to see his children grow. 3 years to tell his wife he loved her. 3 years he would never have had. Vincent's voice was fierce now. You gave my brother that gift. And today you saved my daughter. I owe you 2 life debts. In my world, that is sacred. Jack stepped back, overwhelmed. I don't want anything. I was just doing my job back then, and today I was just doing the right thing. Vincent laughed, a sound without humor. Look at you. Look at what this country did to you after your service. You saved lives, and they left you on the streets to rot. That ends today. He snapped his fingers at Nico. Take him to the house. Get him cleaned up, fed, and give him the guest suite in the East Wing. Jack's eyes widened. No, I can't. I don't belong in your world. Vincent moved closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous and protective at the same time. You saved my brother. You saved my daughter. You belong wherever I say you belong. And right now, you belong under my protection. No arguments. 2 hours later, Jack stood in a marble bathroom larger than some apartments he had lived in. He barely recognized the man in the mirror. The shower had washed away 3 years of street grime. His hair had been cut by Vincent's personal barber, his beard trimmed and shaped. They had given him clean clothes, soft cotton that felt like heaven against his skin. A doctor had examined him, treating infections and malnutrition. Food sat in his stomach for the first time in days, real food from Vincent's kitchen. Jack touched the mirror, half expecting this reflection to disappear. Was this real? Or had he finally lost his mind completely? A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Mr. Sullivan, a voice called. Mr. Calabrese requests your presence in his study. Jack took a deep breath. Time to face whatever came next. Vincent's study was all dark wood and leather, walls lined with books in Italian and English. The crime boss stood by the window, looking out over his estate. He turned when Jack entered, and for a moment, they just studied each other. 2 men from completely different worlds, connected by one night in the Afghan desert. Sit, Vincent said, gesturing to a chair. He poured 2 glasses of expensive whiskey and handed one to Jack. I want to offer you a job. Jack nearly choked on his drink. A job? Doing what? Vincent sat across from him, his expression serious. My daughter needs a bodyguard. Someone I can trust completely. Someone who proved he would die before letting harm come to her. Someone who does not want my money or my power. Someone who just wants to do the right thing. Jack set down his glass carefully. I'm not a criminal. I won't hurt people for you. Vincent actually smiled. I am not asking you to. Isabella's bodyguards handle security. But she needs more than security. She needs someone who understands honor, sacrifice, and duty. Someone who can teach her that power means protecting others, not destroying them. My world is dark, Jack. I cannot change what I am. But maybe I can give my daughter a chance to see light. He paused, his voice dropping. Her mother died when she was 3. I am all she has, and I am not a good man. But you? You are exactly the kind of man I want influencing her life. Jack's mind reeled. You're offering me a job protecting your daughter and teaching her morals? Do you see the irony? I see it clearly, Vincent admitted. But I also see a man who saved 8 strangers in a war zone when he could have walked away. A man who pulled a child from traffic when he had nothing to gain. A man this country abandoned, yet he still tries to do good. That man is rare, Jack. In my world, he is priceless. Vincent leaned forward. I will pay you a salary, give you housing here in my home, provide health care for your injuries. In return, you protect Isabella, teach her, and help her stay innocent as long as possible. When she asks why you are on the streets, you tell her the truth. You let her see what sacrifice really costs. Jack's throat tightened. Why? Why does this matter so much to you? Vincent's eyes gleamed with tears. Because Antonio tried to teach me these things. He was my younger brother, the good one. When he died, I lost my conscience. Maybe you can be that for Isabella. Jack stood at the window of his new room that night, looking out over Vincent's vast property. Somewhere in this house, a little girl slept safely, unaware of how her life intersected with his. Somewhere beyond these walls, other veterans slept in the cold, forgotten by the country they had served. Jack felt torn between two worlds.
He was not naive.
Vincent Calabrese was a criminal, likely responsible for terrible things. Working for him meant getting his hands dirty in some way, even if not directly. But that little girl did not choose this life. She deserved protection. She deserved someone who would teach her right from wrong, even if her father could not. Jack touched his tattoo, tracing the 8 stars. One for each life saved that night in Kandahar. Antonio had been one of those stars. Maybe this was fate's way of completing a circle. The next morning, Isabella knocked on Jack's door at 7 sharp. She wore her school uniform and carried a stuffed rabbit. "Papa says you are going to protect me now," she announced, studying him with serious dark eyes. "He also says you are a hero." Jack knelt down to her level. "I'm not a hero, Isabella. I'm just someone trying to do better." She cocked her head, considering this. "Papa says heroes never think they are heroes. That is what makes them heroes." "Smart kid." Jack smiled for the first time in months. "What do you say we make a deal? I will protect you and teach you things I learned in the army, and you teach me how to live in a normal house again. Deal?" Isabella stuck out her small hand gravely, just like she had seen her father do in business meetings.
"Deal.
But you have to promise one more thing." "What's that?" "You have to come to my ballet recital next month." 6 months later, Jack sat in the front row of Madame Lawrence Ballet Academy, watching Isabella perform as a swan. Vincent sat beside him, both men in suits, both watching the little girl twirl across the stage. She had grown more confident under Jack's guidance, asking questions about the world that challenged him daily. He had started teaching her about honor, sacrifice, and service. She had started teaching him about joy, laughter, and second chances. When the performance ended, Isabella ran to them, hugging her father first, then Jack. "Did you see? Did you see my pirouette?" Vincent laughed, kissing her forehead. Jack felt something he had not felt in 5 years: belonging. He looked at his tattoo, at the 8 stars that had brought him here. Antonio's star had led him to save Isabella. And saving Isabella had led him back to himself. Sometimes the people we save end up saving us back. Sometimes life debts become lifelines. And sometimes, on the worst day of your life, a little girl steps into traffic and changes everything.